Hello, everybody. This is Mike with just another G.I. Joe show. Apologies that we are running a little bit behind. We had some, as Fred would like to say, technical difficulties on my part as usual. This is episode 16. I am Mike, your host, and you can find me on Twitter as ByconFan1978. Go ahead, Fred. Hold it up. I know you're dying to hold it up.
I'm just writing it. I haven't even started.
You were so ready. Go ahead, Fred. Tell them where you can find you.
Oh, Mike's so resigned tonight.
I'm upset. I screwed up like that.
Hi, I'm Fred from Joe Battle Lines. You can find me online at joebattlelines.com, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google Plus. Yes, for the 5 of you still using it, keep up the fight. At joebattlelines.com. So that's it for me.
Rick?
Yep. You can find me exclusively on Twitter as Shattered Glass Jazz.
And we do have a special guest tonight. Mr. James Kavanaugh is gracing us with his presence tonight. James, tell them where they can find you at, and give them a little brief rundown real quick before Fred starts grilling you with questions.
Well, you can find me at www.rahcguide.com. Email me at rahc.guide@gmail.com, or visit me on Facebook at rahcguide.com. I try to keep it pretty consistent.
You have kept it pretty consistent. We would like to thank you for coming on the show with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time again. You just successfully had a Kickstarter go through. Pretty much, I think it was double. Was it? Is that what it was? Was it double what you were asking for, or lower double?
According to Kickstarter, it was 228%.
220%. That is awesome. And this here is actually just a reprint of your first book that you already put out.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there will be minor tweaks, error corrections, and current events updated because life has progressed beyond 2015. But for all intents and purposes, yes. There will be some ties to, like, say, Volume 4, the exclusive figures, but there's no new 25th figures that we're aware of that were domestically released. So there's no new figures in the guide.
And for those of you who've been living under a rock and, or the Amish who don't follow the internet, what we're referring to is James is the author of Rank and File, a guide to 4-inch G.I. Joe action figures. He's also the author of, as he said in his intro, the RAHC Guide, which is his first publication and was a kick-butt guide to the second generation of O-ring books. So if you don't have this, this is my product shell. Go out and buy this right now because it's awesome. And then what James has done is he has put out currently a 3-volume series. I sadly only have 2 volumes with me because I can't find the first. And he's recently republished the first one. So, and these are, basically these are guidebooks. So when you can't get to Yojo, or you just want a tangible book in your hand, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, you want to know who the hell does this gun belong to?
Yep.
These are your reference files.
Fred, I got to call you on some of your BS. I noticed in a photo of yours on Facebook that you would use the Volume 1 for some kitty litter padding. There's a photo of you and the cat. I mean, it's cool. I understand that, when the cat's got to go, he's got to go. You don't want to stop it, but you don't have to. I'm just kidding.
Seriously, before the show, I was tearing up the Joe room, like, where the hell is this book? I just had it 2 weeks ago because I wanted to bring it tonight. And, if you guys haven't purchased these are killer books. And so I just want to start the questions tonight and ask James, what possessed you to do a guidebook of any kind? Like, what sparked that where you're like, I got a lot of figures. I think I'm going to do a book on them.
Well, the 3 of you know that I'm out of my mind, so that's really the short answer. It was a mixture of Mark Belamo, hands down, and as we were talking about earlier, 2005, when I was sitting there as Crystal Ball at the JoeCon dinner. He had just released his guide, and it was the new greatest thing, still, the reigning champion. And I kind of thought, you know, it'd be neat to do, but then I was also suffering in my private life with I had a graphic design degree. I worked in printing, but I wasn't really utilizing my degree to the fullest ability, and I didn't feel that my skills were at the level they should be. So I created what I deemed an impossible task for me to do, and I climbed the mountain.
Ooh.
So I had a teacher in college. She was a real spitfire, and she looked at us one day. She goes, "I'm up here," you know, has her hand up, way up high, "and you're down here. I'm not coming down to you, so you need to climb the mountain." And that was it. You either sunk or swum.
Nice, very zen.
I don't know. Yeah, it kind of was. So then, but then, yeah, I mean, obviously I love G.I. Joe. Well, okay, to also float Fred's boat. I just met you. I don't even know if you remember, but at Wizard World, you were with Ring of Collectors, I think. And I'm like, oh, here's a big shot. I'm hanging out with Fred Meyer, you know, owner of JBL. I got to be doing something right. You know, later I found out I was doing something wrong, but no, I mean, I just wanted to contribute.
Okay.
Everybody had, I mean, you had the websites down and others, you know, and everybody else had this, that, and where was a hole for me to do what I do. And that's just, resource guides for 97 plus.
Well, I still remember sitting at the first, because you and I had gotten to know each other at that point. It was the first New Orleans con, and they had a video room with, it was like the season premiere of Sigma 6 season 2. They were showing it on a loop early, and James comes in that morning, and he's got this backpack, and he just pulls out these pages. And you had started, this was some of like the earliest artifacts of what became RAHC Guide. Like back in, was that 2006?
Yes. So JoeCon was 2005. Ground Zero was about December 2005 with a buddy of mine. Kind of a long story, but we basically did 18 hours straight photography. And he's like, "Is this it?" And I didn't know either. And I'm like, "No, this is only 20% of it." That's when we both kind of looked at each other like, I mean, we've clearly gotten past that. I've worked with Nick on the projects for 12 years. But okay, so again, in 2006, I wanted to come in with some sort of skeletal structure of a guide to show guys like Fred, you know, exactly what I'm thinking and get their advice. Primarily, I mean, I wanted it on the DL, but then also, you know, if you're going to do something, check with the guys that already know what's going on. You know what I mean? Don't go to the guy down the street and be like, "Hey, what do you think?" He's not going to know. You know? Oh, and then and really round it out to paint the picture from my perspective, Ron Connor had put his guides out, which were great, and I own them, and I'll always support them, especially for the pre-production, which I don't have. But I was actually kind of bummed out, and Fred and everybody kind of picked me up with, you know, in that very, you know, I don't even know if you remember this, Fred, but in that room, we kind of had a little strategy reorganization, and for the biggest one was to add the vehicles.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And so on, and move forth. And I don't know if I still have everybody's notes in there, you know, that copy with everybody's notes or not, but it was a good session. It was fun.
And so then you went forward and you literally cataloged that transition era, that whole second generation of O-Ring. And again, if people out there haven't picked up this book, I cannot emphasize enough how awesome and how useful this book has been just to me personally over the years. But you went through and okay, so you went through and you started taking pictures of everything, and then you had to come up with a cataloging system for all of these parts. And was there a point when you were going through there where you were kind of like, what the hell did I start?
Yeah, I mean, once you look at it in a database sense, because I was also I was the jerk that gave you junk mail at my job, you know, and yeah, I can't take you off the list, you know, it's locked in stone. But no, I kid. So I had an element of database, you know, design and understanding behind me to boot. And you're right. I mean, you got to, okay, so there's my freebie one. if you ever want to, if anybody wants to start working on a book, you got to collect all your data, and you got to, look at everything that you have in a data sense. And you're absolutely right. Once you start looking at the numbers. Well, one other snippet, I knew that because I started in '97, I didn't want to step on Joe's toes, and Terry and Phil and I and Pat, communicate from, since that day one and to this day. I consider them good friends as well. But how am I supposed to sit there and say in my book that Snake Eyes 1997 is volume or version 5, let's say? So I had to come up with my own unique system that doesn't, go against our understanding of versions, but still functions as a 1 to 0 or 1 to infinity type, element. If that makes any sense.
No, that actually does, because again, up until this point, up until really until Mark's book, and like you said, is Rob's, and then yours, JoeCon was kind of it for us. I mean, there were those with the Simons that
Yes.
were out, but again, they were kind of hard to find at that point. And so as you went through, and again, so just how long would you say your total production was on RAHC Guide to get it from your crazy 18-hour photo session, to the point where you were selling books to people, like all of us?
In 2008 or late 2007, I had hard drive failure, so the book would have come out in 2009-ish. I lost 3,000 hours. I was able to gain back 1,000 with some, hardware. Yeah. And I averaged, because when I'm not dancing around like Lay Tal at JoeCon, I'm running stupid numbers. I calculate about 7,000 hours on RHC Guide total.
Wow.
So keeps me out of trouble. Or at least I tell myself that.
And what was your favorite part of doing the first book?
Getting it over with. Well, a fun snippet, and for the first one that's I just lucked upon was working with Scott and Kip Simmons, and I say that because Kip was the original Kenner photographer. I'm located in Dayton, Ohio, so I can go down to Cincinnati and see the old factory anytime I want. Had I had a webcam, I'd take us down there, and do this interview on the road. And then, ironically enough, I mean, Fred, you in particular know this. With me, just goofy things happen in my life. I'm working at this print shop, and the new guy comes up, and we're talking nerd stuff, G.I.Joe, Transformers, and He-Man, and everything. And I'm like, I think you might like something I'm working on, and I don't show anybody this, And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, I know all these guys. He starts pointing out all the Hasbro faces, and I'm like, right on. He goes, yeah, these were all my coworkers at my last job. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I was the Hasbro photographer from '96 to '04. Going from Cincinnati to Pawtucket and now back, and now here I am standing with him in some dirty old room laminating posters, and so I got to photograph my front and back cover that Fred was showing, and you can kind of see that in my icon, and all the props behind that are all old vintage Star Wars Kenner ad props.
Oh, that's awesome.
The base plate on the front and back. Slave One landed on the base plate where the Skyhawk is.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you'd have to find that photo. I haven't been able to find it, but Kip's pride and joy is this phenomenal Empire Strikes Back shot, and you can't quite see it the way I decorated it, but the mountain base on the back cover is the snow. So
let's see it, Fred.
Oh, dude.
So when you look at that's the size of a table. His camera that we used, I need to even ask him again what camera it was, but that was the size of a movie camera. To create that shot. So that was, to work with experts, you know what I mean? Or like the number one guys you want to go to for action figure photography. That was the real treat.
That's pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. You know?
You have 4 volumes out, correct?
Yes.
And do the 4 volumes sum all of it up, or is there going to be a volume 5? I mean, I don't have. I mean, I kickstarted this new Kickstarter, and it'll be my first volume. So I mean, I'm not up to date on it. Fred, put your arms down. I'm not up to date, correct? On all of this. I mean, do all 4 issues cover everything, or is there more to come out?
There's more to come out. I did structure rank and file to continue of sorts beyond the RAC guide. So like it starts at page 163 or something. Rank and file volume 1. If Fred didn't use it for kitty litter, we would see that it starts like 163 or something. So you'll be able to continue, and they're not numbered. It's not rank and file. I think it's Flint is the first figure in the book. It's not figure number 1. He's figure 780. So I want the entire my system to continue beyond. To really answer your question, no, I think I'm now up to 7 volumes.
Okay.
If this series continues, and because I haven't done the club stuff, so obviously there's
a couple volumes out there alone, right?
Yeah, if you wanted a exclusive for the podcast, I mean, I always said that volume 4 would be the club stuff. I can't fit the amount of club stuff that's been done with the way I have my layout. I've been working on all this stuff. I had volumes 1 through 5 about 80% finished.
Now let me ask you on the club stuff. I know sometimes people can be particular about it. Not try to change the subject, but I mean, is the club okay with you doing a volume for their stuff? I mean, is that an issue, or was that an issue, or what can you tell me about that?
Despite some of my costume choices throughout the years, I've gotten to know everybody at the club. I mean, I consider them friends.
Mm-hmm.
They might you want to keep a 10-yard radius from me? No, I kid. We have a fine enough relationship. I do remember when I released the first RHC guide, David Lane in particular, in the crew, because Brian helps out, Brian Mulholland, not Brian Savage, and a few others will, help in behind the scenes on their end. He appreciated the work that I did for the club stuff. A fun snippet. Some collectors don't consider it, canon or part of the collection. I think that sentiment's pretty much dwindled. But at least back in the early ages of 2002 to say 2007 or 8, people were able to dismiss it in their minds because it wasn't produced by Hasbro. The counter argument being that they are the official licensee from Hasbro and use Hasbro tooling. I know I'm probably stating the obvious, but I'm rounding out my point. So between just me laying it out, I don't think I've done anything bad. I don't have everybody slapping each other's butts or something,
slapping some ass
in the page. Well, hey, it's a party somewhere. But everything's laid out equally to Hasbro stuff. And Hasbro hasn't shut me down yet, as I knock on my head, saying knock on wood.
Right. Were you approached? Because some of the people in the Joe community have been approached about being a part of Hascon. Were you brought up to be part of Hascon this year, or anything of that nature because of your stuff you've done?
I was not. I did once I found out that Dan was working with somebody, aka a fellow fan. I mean, mind you, Dan's really gotten to know all the Hasbro designers, but I offered him. I offered my services and anything I can do for Daryl and Hasbro and the rest of the gang. If they utilize me, great. If not, I completely understand.
Gotcha. Okay. Rick, do you have anything you want to ask?
No, but I would like to revisit that question about the club stuff. James, Mike and I both collect G.I.Joe and Transformers. When Fun Pub was losing the license for the Transformers, there were about 8 months left, and I sent Fun Pub a message saying, would it be possible to compile all of their toys and do like a little mini coffee table book just all the stuff from BotCon. So I'm glad Mike brought up that question. You know, hopefully people that watch, they'll start to kind of maybe, you know, talk to FunPub or talk to you guys behind the scenes that are able to pull off these projects like that. I for one, would love to see all the club stuff, both G.I. Joe and Transformers, both of them, from the cons through the years. And, you know, if it's just the toys, that's cool. And if it's a little bit of the experience at those shows as well as the toys, that's even better. But I think there's a market for it. I mean, seems like there would be.
I would agree. I went to the last BotCon, and I have 3 under my belt total. Don't let Gary Godso find out. But fun joke with a buddy, Joe Collector. He has a loving disdain for Transformers. It's kind of a running joke. I apologize. But to that end, I could certainly see the love and the unity at the last BotCon. And I'm extremely glad that I went, just kind of as an outsider, so I could feel the love but still stand back and not be too attached. So you're right. I mean, I would personally agree that there is an audience for that, and it could be done if somebody wanted to put in the work. Now I know from my numbers alone, and a simple calculation to do is look at my 7,000 hours, and I can tell you that I would have made more money being a fry cook at McDonald's than making these. I mean, I think it's like $52,000 a year at $7.25 an hour, you know, or whatever. I mean, it's around there. So there's some money to be had in fry cooking, but compared to book writing. But I mean, I kid. But to that end, the other point of consideration is I don't know how the Transformer license extends at this point. And obviously they're still able to sell their product, but I'm fairly confident that they would not be able to produce anything new.
Yeah, maybe the right person to talk to, at least on the Joe end, is Daryl. Like, Daryl's going to be at Hascon. If anybody's watching the show and is going to the Superfan event, or if someone could reach out to ask him, maybe he's the right person to. I mean, we know that he's got all the artifacts, so to speak. Maybe there's something on the Hasbro end where if they know that we want something like that.
So real quick, I mean, just to ask, really round it out then, because you pointed at Daryl, are you asking for like photo recaps of all the exclusives and as well as the experience? So you would want photos of you and Mike hanging out with.
It could be either. I mean, it could be either way. If it's just the toys, like I said, that's cool. But if it was the actual toys and the experience, that's even better.
Yeah.
No one's captured that.
Ryan, both would be great. I mean, the only problem I think would be getting actual pictures of the events. I mean, the only things I know is what people have or what you would get off of the archives at JoeCon.com.
Yeah, it would take everybody probably pitching in. I have a feeling.
Well, and it would also be a matter of scope and scale because, as James was, as you were saying, James, you had intended one volume to catalog the club's Generation 3 stuff, and that's exploded into how many now because of all the FSS and it was when the club was just doing the convention, you were getting what maybe 15 unique figures a year.
Yeah, not even. I think the highest ever was 14.
Yeah, and so you had and then now with FSS you're getting another 13, and some years you're getting 2. So it would all come down to scope and scale. Which actually brings me back to volume 4 of Rank and File. And so, okay, so, you've got the club's offerings, but within the club's offerings, you've got convention figures and sets, you've got renewal figures, you've got FSS, and then you've got the Joe Transformers crossover items. How do you break, as an author, how do you break that down into volumes? Do you break that down by year and do everything chronologically, or do you break it down by series?
I've been Well, that's a good question. And we'll kind of give you an example. Volume 4 before JoeCon was 80 pages. Based on my system of layout, which I won't put all your, fans to sleep by explaining
all 5 of them.
The sign. Well, hey, a nap's a nap. No. But so I had 80 pages up till 2016, maybe 2017 laid out. I can't do any more than 52 because the stitching will burst. Is the short answer to that. Fun little rank and file fact. But so to that end, yeah, I mean, everything was grouped by their series or by their grouping. So all the yearly figures were all on one page. The DTC stuff was all on one page. Even the Transformer crossover figures, if they had a G.I. Joe reference directly on the packaging. So Hot Rod or Rodimus and RC, I own them. Awesome figures. They're not, and they never were designed to be G.I. Joe exclusives.
Right.
They're Transformer exclusives. So, I mean, so then to really answer your question, the breaking point, I'm like 95% sure that Volume 4, Volume 5 will not only be the exclusives, both San Diego and Hasbro, but they'll break it 2014. Because I took the data and proverbially folded it in half. And it just so happened, yeah, exactly as Fred said, you would think that 2008 to 2016 would fold, a little more, 2012? But no, all those FSSs and everything in between. And count, speculating what we're going to get. I kind of, picking up everything at JoeCon this year folds at 2014.
I hadn't even considered that. Is that, yeah, you have to kind of guess how many items, how many pieces or unique pieces, I should say, not counting repeat figures, that are going to be in a convention set when you're planning ahead on this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah. Again, it's looking at the data and all the boring stuff. I don't get to play with toys, but I think each year is now 4 pages in my book. Each convention set alone, and that's a lot of real estate.
Wow, that is.
Yeah.
Honestly, you should really do just one whole book on nothing but the 2015 set, which is the best set ever. Tiger Force. Hey,
the Mike Tennell special edition.
Oh my God! Yes, an audience of one. Hey, wait a minute, Mike. That's the kitty litter volume. Oh my God! It writes itself.
There it is.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
No one blends into Tidy Cat like Tiger Force.
Shut up, Fred.
James, if you've never, this is my first week, by the way, without shirt of shame, thank God. So it's nice to be back in normal clothes.
Nice.
So again, what among the fandom, what was first the reaction to RAHC Guide, and what has been the reaction to Rank and File that you've experienced?
The reaction to RAHC Guide was, when are you going to do stuff on the 4-inch figures?
I figured.
I kid, but I don't. No, I mean, they loved it. I mean, they're very flattering, and I'm very appreciative of the feedback. I don't think I've ever, unless I'm just blind to it, you guys can, everybody can be honest. I'm a big boy. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, I don't like it. I won't. I will not own it. Blah blah blah. This is dumb, and they expanded upon it however they saw fit. There's obviously everybody can have critiques on at some point or another, and I would even agree with them. I had to make some 50-50 decisions on some things, but everybody's overall really receptive. Now, the only thing that I think is funny from the inside, and Fred, you somewhat elaborated on it in 2006. People say thank you for championing this lost era, and that's what the Rank and File or RAC Guide, and that is kind of the truth that 97 through 06 is probably not going to be looked upon favorably as time progresses. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I wasn't exactly trying to champion this lost era. I was trying to put a book out on the new era, and time got ahead of me.
Yeah.
But Rank and File, of course, because we're still in the 4-inch phase of G.I. Joe, as it might have might have died in 2016. I don't know. We'll see. Barring the club, we'll see. So it's still fresh in people's minds. So of course they're a little more, happy to see everything there that's within recent memory. Although we did celebrate the 10-year anniversary of 25th anniversary this summer.
Yeah.
So.
And we know that Joe loves its anniversaries.
That it does.
They love it so much they do it 3 years in a row.
Nice. Exactly.
So let's assume a perfect world, okay? So we're at this future state, James, and you've finished your definitive volumes. They're now all available, leather-bound, hardcover. Of all of G.I. Joe, and 4-inch and 3 3/4. What other lines, whether they be G.I. Joe or Sigma 6, would you ever want to dive in and also do something similar? Or completing all the G.I. Joe, would you be like, you know what, dude, I've done my bit for Colton and Country, and I'm out.
Colton and Country. Drop the mic and run frantically out the door. I like that option. No, I did kind of spitball and in my mind, visualize what I consider a miscellaneous G.I. Joe guidebook. And the miscellaneous would focus upon the Real American Hero extended lines. And yes, those are my highfalutin noted author ways of saying Sigma 6, Combat Heroes, all those that are RH, Real American Hero related.
Sergeant Savage?
Yeah, Sergeant Savage and Extreme, of course. And yeah, that's what I meant by miscellaneous.
Okay.
Maybe, no, it's a good question. I was getting ahead of myself. Maybe whatever happened in 78 that's not documented past the adventure team. And I've admitted to Ace and the gang that I know very little about 12-inch. So work with me there. But then also even the Real American Hero 12-inch.
Yeah,
because they've just simply never been documented the way I document stuff.
That you talking about the oh shoot, I'm blanking on the collection right now.
Hall of Heroes, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were limited in articulation, but they were a Real American Hero cast, but done larger.
Yeah. Those
okay.
and the Valor Venom, the Spy Troops, were some of them Joe Cobra era.
Yeah.
If it's Real American Hero centric, I'm a little more, able to grasp it and get my hands on it and work with it. If it's not that related, I'll bow out and let those.
Well, and guys like Daryl and others have done, Adventure Team and some of the others. So.
Yeah, that was the final thing. People ask me if I'm going to do an 82 to 94 book, and I'm like, why? I mean, I don't read my tone as dismissive so much as there's in my opinion there's already great guides out there for them.
Yeah.
What would I provide that wouldn't be new and exciting? I'm flattered that you would think of me to want to do that, and you like my style. But like all G.I. Joe team members, you don't always want to send the shirtless guy into the Arctic. I don't know.
I know a lot of times, especially like YouTube videos and things like that, there's a big to-do about comparisons when you have like, whether it's Masters of the Universe or G.I. Joe or whatever the thing. I see people really digging those type of things. So you've already got everything documented here, but would there be an opportunity to go back and have a book where you actually show it's character driven and you show the characters and the different versions through the years?
It'd be fun. It wouldn't be a bad idea either. And also at a certain point, I kind of need to. I've gotten a decent grasp on just how big the fandom is, and I don't, necessarily want to comment on it because it always starts a big to do, and I think people have a smaller or certainly a larger, vision of how big the fandom is. But no. I don't. At a certain point, I kind of got to look at myself and say, what would I like to do, what would be fun to do, and what's really gonna bring in the sales and the not that sales are certainly not my priority. I mean I want to sell out, but I'm not here to make millions.
Right.
The only money I'm rolling around over here in is Latal dollars, those haven't gotten me very far.
Here's a question. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know. Not only are you such a great author, but a lot of people don't know that you are a fan of the cosplay world. Why don't you give us kind of like a little rundown, why you got into that, and give us some of the stuff you've done and a couple of stories, and then we'll share a little video we have of you.
Uh-oh. I never call myself a cosplayer because I never want to do them the disservice. I try to distance myself from the cosplay communities for them, for their safety. The sanctity. They don't want to be seen with me. And I kid, but I always kind of called myself the guy in the gorilla suit with the lampshade on. And Fred might even be able to articulate this from an outsider perspective. But in 2005, when I showed up, number one, there wasn't a costume contest. Yeah. It was just a bluegrass band playing some ditties in a hangar. But not only that, I don't want to say you were the outcast because everybody knows and loves these figures, but it wasn't something to do, and it wasn't stressed. You could look at the history of the word cosplay, but I don't think it was even in the forefront of our minds in 2005. So when but then when everybody else showed up, they had real nice costumes, and they had Shipwreck and Scrap Iron and CoverGirl, and they looked really good. But I just wanted to be that idiot, that put on a brown shirt and grew my hair out looking like a perverted David Cross and dyed it black and called myself Crystal Ball, and they liked it, I guess. At least they convinced me of stuff.
I always viewed you less, James, as a cosplayer and more as a Joe performance artist. and honestly, because James was the guy going all the way back who didn't just have the costume, but there was an air. And it's funny because with James, as I've known him, there's James, and then there was the web persona, which was a little bigger and louder, and like a lot of us. And you really got into the showmanship side of it when you put the costume on, and you made it fun for the audience to the point where I can remember at one JoeCon where I think it was your second time of doing it, and Drew Swenson comes running up to me at the dinner. He's like, James is Raptor. I'm like, what? And we all like drop our plates and go booking into the main room. Because most of the guys, like the guys and gals who would dress up, they would be in costume, but they were, they were just kind of chilling with it. Here comes James with these bird wings and the headpiece, and it was this bit of showmanship to it, which made it fun.
Harry dubbed it the Raptusi. I had some sort of dance that, because the wings were cloth, so I did some sort of, probably looked like a belly dancer or something. I don't know, but
freaking phenomenal. No shirt, wings, the cowl, the whole 9 yards.
Well, I'm the guy that'll go shirtless for starters, so there's an end to the funny right there. But and thank you for the flattery, and I'm glad everybody's having fun. Is really the primary part. Like, I just want everybody to have fun. But then a side note, I used to go and win costume contests at Halloween. So I would do Axl Rose. I would do I can't even think of his name, but it was Chodo Boy and the Trey Parker, Matt Stone, the pink suit.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh, Orgasmo.
Orgasmo, yeah. I would go. Pew pew. I'll shoot you with my Orgasmerator. And you go to a bar, showed up as Orgasmo, and you've got votes.
Oh, and free drinks. Let's not forget some free drinks.
Yeah, I like money and free drinks.
You've never seen that movie. You need to see it. It's so stupidly hilarious.
Yeah. No, it must be it must have been in the forefront because I had that song, their theme song. Now you're a man.
Oh,
in my head earlier today. Well, I would go and I would do Michael Jackson. I would do Axl Rose, and I can draw Axl Rose's tattoos on my body in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? If you say do it now, I can have it done in 15 minutes. But I liked money, and I liked booze, and I liked making an ass out of myself. And JoeCon dinner just became part of that.
We talked about off air before we came on, and this was Rick's first JoeCon, and I had gone off to do bingo, and I came back literally just in time for the cosplay contest, and Rick and his wife were standing there, and I think they were ready to leave almost, and I told Rick, I told Rick, they need it. I said, you need to stay. This year is going to be good. I mean, and I've always enjoyed the cosplay contest. I just think they are just so good to watch. And when they did everything, the adults, the kids, and then I think they kept yours kind of like a special category. I think it was. I mean, I'm not for sure. But here's this big, huge figure subscription box that's probably at least 10, 12 feet tall easily, and 6 feet wide. And I'm reading it sideways, and I was sitting there hitting Rick. I'm like, oh, don't you leave. This shit's gonna be good right here. You wait and see. Had no idea who was even in the box. Once the box gets up there, and I go over to the middle of the room, and they rip off the front. As soon as I saw Dr. Isotope, that's when, because Dr. Isotope I find to be one of the, I love that figure. I just think it's a great character figure. I mean, I literally lost my shit on it. And I'm like, are you serious? And then they open up the door. Here you come. Just a jiggling and wiggling, losing your mustache, stripping your pants off. I mean, I laughed so hard. And I told Rick, don't you leave, man. Don't you leave. But he finally left and was over. But I told him, don't you leave, Rick. Oh, yeah. Well, I enjoyed that.
Well, when you sell a figure that comes in its base product in its underpants with a 70s mustache and 70s afro, and he glows in the dark. Yeah. How do you not say, hey, when's James going to put this on his on his list?
Well, that really where's the panel van accessory that was with that figure? I mean,
oh God.
I mean, I was waiting for the
hey, little girl, do you want some radioactive candy?
See, I would have gone there, but you went straight there, Fred.
Oh,
I would never punish anybody with an insight into my mindset, but a direct insight. But I did. I'm not going to lie to you. Part of me had that. I'm like, what am I going to do with this guy? And part of me did start there because you guys know I'm not known for my subtleties at JoeCon, but at the same time, it is a family.
Yeah,
it's a family event, so I think I tried to throw in just a tinge of that while really making it accommodating to the whole family. And again, this is a figure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is a figure that was sold in his underwear. So you can't convince me that me ending up in my underwear is a bad thing.
Here's the one I want to wait. Maybe next year, what you should do is come out in your underwear next year is the year of the as seen on TV.
Oh,
so you paint yourself up blue and gray.
Oh God, he does black and white cosplay.
That'd actually be fun.
I've seen people. There was a couple that did that at Comic-Con. Was it 2 years ago? They went as Bruce Wayne's dead parents.
Oh
nice.
No!
Yeah.
And so they would dress up and they would lay on the ground.
Oh yeah.
As black and white. It was amazing.
I've seen photos of that online. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That would be rad to do.
So you go ahead and decide to come out in your underwear. We'll go ahead and start a fund to bail you out of jail. When they have you arrested for indecent exposure.
Oh my God! Yeah, again. No, it's the last one, so I got to go out with a bang.
It's funny you should mention that because I told Fred this, I think, or I told someone. I actually thought about it when I did a review on the Super Joe.
Okay.
The green one, because I'm bald headed and I thought about shaving down to a goatee and painting myself all green, but you don't want to see all the sexiness in spandex. Is the only problem.
Well, when Fred told me earlier that you broke the internet, I said that you had the booty for it. So.
Well, apparently you haven't seen. I have no ass at all. Oh gosh, shut up, Fred. Fred and his signs.
All I've got is this little window in the corner. Damn it! I will milk it.
Here's a question for you. We'll kind of move on to a couple of our other topics. I wanted to get in. Let's see. We're going to do the famous screen share that Fred loves me doing all the time.
This is always fun, and by fun I mean.
I'm gonna get. You can't see me. You can't see it. You can't.
By the way, James, while Mike is playing with screen share wackiness, now that the Kickstarter is funded, how soon do you estimate that there will be our Rank and File Volume 1 will be back on the site for sale again?
Excellent. By the end of October at the latest.
Awesome.
Now, is that the first print or that will be the reissue print?
That'll be the reissue. There will be no more version. Volume 1, copyrighted 2015 is done and gone.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even think I copied the file and then updated it. Mm-hmm. The moment I found errors and everything, same with every one of my books, I go straight into it and I fix the error, or I see something I don't like, I modify it and go from there. So that way I don't work backwards.
Gotcha.
So go ahead.
Here we go. I was going to say, for people who didn't know, the club came out earlier this week, and they announced the actual hotel convention center of JoeCon 2018. They put up the logo. Of course, as soon as the logo is up, everyone speculates on what the logo could mean. We know it says celebrating 25 years, which this will actually be Savage's 25th year doing JoeCon.
Okay.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
No. I think that's what the 25th meant, was for his many years. Some people were saying, what were they saying? DOA. I think they were.
The DEF.
DEF.
Yeah, that's what it was. Go ahead, put your sign up. Never mind. They can't see your sign no more right now, Fred.
I'll make a new one.
It was like, he's not a real collector. He's not a real fan.
I had one that was always, Mike's not a real fan.
That one actually hurts my feelings a little bit.
Oh.
You're terrible.
But with that being said, the hotel is up. It is at the Chattanooga Convention Center and the Chattanooga Marriott, which it is connected to the event center. I talked to them earlier this week. When I booked my hotel, I originally went on. I always call and do my booking over the phone. I don't like doing online booking. And we had talked about, I was getting me a room all lined up, and we get all the way to the part where we need your credit card information, and they're like, and then I tell them, well, I just want to make sure there is no, we don't have to pay the first night up front, do we? And at first, the lady goes, well, no, we don't. Here at the Marriott, we don't require you to pay up front. You just reserve the room. You have 48 hours to cancel your room. And then she goes, well, hold on a second. And then she comes back and says, no, unfortunately, this convention requires one night paid in advance. So you have to pay one night up front in advance in order to book your room, or you can't get it booked at the convention rate of actually, you know what? I'll scroll down. We'll look at it real quick. I want to say it was 156. Does that sound right to somebody else?
I know I've seen it, that it's like it's about what somebody said, it's what, 191 with tax and parking by the time you're done.
Yeah, once you add in the $11 parking, it is 156 plus. They told me on the phone it was like 170 something with tax and all, and then you add in the $11, so you're looking at like 190 something. So yeah, you're looking at 199, and man, I really thought, I can't remember if this year was cheaper than that or not. I can't recall. But if you're still wanting to get the room booked, it's here. You just go to JoeCon2018.com, and then you go to click the link at the bottom. It takes you to the Chattanooga Marriott downtown. I looked at, let's see if I can find them. I was going to try to find some pictures, but they're not there. But anyways, it looks like a real nice hotel. Me personally, like I said off air, I went for the suite, which is not on the JoeCon rate, which was about $30 more. But then, of course, there's going to be at least 6 of us in the room together, so that makes our rooms, I think it was like 146 or 146 of our whole stay for 4 days is what it amounted to. I know I tried to look into it was the king suite. No, I take it back. It was a 2-bedroom suite. It was a presidential suite. $450 per night. I'm like, nope. I'll go right to this one. Yeah, the room rate was, when they mentioned, they only have 3 of those rooms all together. And when I was like, man, no, go ahead and give me that cheaper one you're telling me about. We'll make that work. So, I mean, James, I know this is close enough for you because you're in Ohio, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is close. You'll be going to this one, of course, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, James will go no matter what.
Well, I didn't want to assume, but
It's in a back alley in some West Virginian side town. I'm there. Hell, I might have been there the night prior. You know.
And I'm sure the club will have some pretty cool. From what I've seen on other forums about sightseeing, Chattanooga seems to have a lot of really cool sights to see and tours and activities. So that's actually something to look forward to. Some pretty cool tours there. So what are y'all's just by looking at the logo, do y'all have any ideas what the set could possibly be?
I'm going to go on record right now, and you can quote me on this.
Oh, I will.
It's going to be about G.I. Joe.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
Yeah, I think the logo doesn't give you enough to go on.
Okay.
I mean, looking at it, I will say that the logos typically don't have as much as a connection as we'd like to think they do. When you look at them throughout the years, what this logo tells me, color palette wise, is either red shadows, maybe plague, and I'm just thinking of terms of things that are different or not seen. I mean, that color pattern tells me 83 Destro, which I doubt.
We could get a whole box full of alley vipers.
It's true.
We can get 8 of those. Go along for 8 bats.
I think we're about done with troop builders of that scale. I don't know.
Someone was saying they were hoping that they'd go back to a all O-ring set for the last year.
As much as I am an O-ring fan and I love my O-ring Joes, as evidenced by why I like, as James refers to it, the Forgotten Era, that ship has sailed.
Oh yeah,
As I understand it, they don't have any more of the tooling. Though I will say that, in my opinion, this current state of the hobby, that O-ring is making a big resurgence.
Yeah, thanks to like Black Major, Red Laser, you're seeing some really cool O-ring issues out there. Filling in some gaps in collections, some fun variations. The Hallmark sticker Snake Eyes that Red Laser did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like that stuff's awesome. And yes, there's somebody's doing freaking Tiger Force Steel Brigade, Mike. Yay!
Oh, I know. Yay! I love it.
But it's funny that when once the 25th and the no ring figures came out, a lot of the O-ring stuff, people it was kind of cool to poo-poo O-ring for a while, and I'm kind of glad to see it getting the love again because. There's still some of the most, I don't care what people say about O-ring snapping. Most of my original Joes from when I was a kid are still intact and still posable today. I've only had like 2 or 3 O-rings really on those old ones ever break.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. I mean, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
They built them like tanks, man.
Yeah, I've been filling a lot of holes with their no new product really out. I've been filling a lot of holes this last year, and just at JoeCon I bought maybe 35 O-rings, and since then probably another 25. I got 4 this week. I'm like really digging O-rings again right now. And a lot of it though, I'm big on the vehicles, and I'm filling holes in my vehicles, and I love, like, I just got a Bug like maybe a month ago or so, and then at JoeCon I got a Rolling Thunder. Those toys, I never had those as kids, so I'm discovering those toys for the first time. They're awesome, fun toys. So I do think they hold up, Fred, just like you're saying. I think they really hold up.
I mean, aside from the Rat, which is like which is such an anomaly. Like, Joe vehicles were always so well made, and they you know, even if you were kind of like you didn't like the aesthetic of them, man, they were built solid. And then you got to the Rat, and the Rat's just this. Essentially, the Rat's like taking a butter container, turn it upside down, slap a seat on it. It's this hollow shell that's just a piece of crap.
Fred, I don't know if you're ever in on this inside joke, and it's impossible to stay up on all of them with JoeCon and Joe fandoms doing it. But it was Nova. Nova wanted to start the Rat Hat Brigade.
Yep.
And it would have paralleled kind of the Defenders of Bullet Man, where we were going to find every rat, gut them, and walk around with these dumb little vehicles on our heads.
You know, I would be down like that. Yes, because they are. Well, wasn't he was collecting. He had some project about rats and balls at one point, and it was he was getting rats and even more crystal balls. And for those of you who don't know Nova's obsession is crystal ball, to the point that one year at JoeCon in the custom and diorama, he did crystal ball gone nuts, and it was this giant diorama of crystal ball figures, and it was all his customs and regular crystal balls. And my favorite was the custom carded crystal ball who had bust his feet out the bottom of the card and was running around. That was what, 2009 maybe? No, it was earlier than that.
I think one of them was even 2004.
Yeah,
that was my first con. And I remember walking in, seeing the dioramas, and I'm like, what in the world is this crystal ball monkey business madness?
Oh,
I didn't know the joke. I didn't know Brian back then.
It was epic.
Hilarious. It was insane.
See this.
To go on to some news that is going to happen this year, there's an Instagram account called Hasbro Pulse, and they show a lot of pictures of what they plan on having at Hascon. One of the things we'll kind of focus in here on the middle is the Missile Command headquarters set that was at San Diego that went to HasbroShop.com that Fred missed out on, and now we'll be going to Hascon. But at Hascon, apparently, I don't know if I've read it right or not, but apparently if you do the Legends dinner or something, you get this, or you get the opportunity to purchase it. But anyway, you look at it, at Hascon, they're giving away, it comes with 2 or is it 4 extra figures?
Yeah, it's 4, I think.
4. It's 2 of the trooper and 2 of the officer, and I would be a complete liar if I wasn't salivating over every one of those.
Yeah, so that's a Hascon somewhat exclusive, I guess you would say. I only troop build on certain figures, and sadly, I hate to say that probably bats are my main one, because I like bats like anybody else. But I mean, there's other troopers I like to build up on. These here were not ones I would want to troop, me personally.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are some people out there who would want to, and and I can't remember exactly how it went completely down the line as far as the price on it. I'll have to pull up Hascon and we can go over the ticket prices, and they've added some more stuff and they've discounted tickets, but this is some of the items I think they're going to be doing at a Hascon. You see the Legends there, which once you look at some of these Legends, a lot of them I'm not really familiar with, a lot of them. But one of them I know who should be there, who was a guest a few episodes ago, is not there, and that kind of hurts my feelings a little bit, which is our good buddy Kurt. I figured would have been there part of this, but he's not. Not even Larry Hamill is going to be there, which is kind of a bummer
What?
too.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. How do you have those two missing and still call it Legends? That's
Well,
rough.
I think they're focusing more. I mean, just from what I've seen, I see it being more of like they're focusing on like their own former employees, so like the designers and that, which I get.
Right.
That's why Kirk being there, not being there, is kind of odd. I'm assuming there's stuff that we don't, need to know. Stuff. There's a reason.
We're not on need to know basis.
And but the one thing that when I was looking at the Hascon, the Legends dinner pack, and you get like the design lithographs, and you get the animation cells, and I'll be honest, it's one time I'm not sad about missing out on an exclusive, because unfortunately the only cells that they seem to have available in quantity to give away are from Deke. If they were Sunbow cells, man, that would change the game for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And somewhere Diana Davis would be like, in Mission Impossible style gear, like, sneaking in there to steal them, because, for a lot of us, Sunbow, if you're talking cartoon, you're talking Sunbow.
Oh, absolutely.
Deke is painful.
And we'll go here to the Hascon site, and
it's Mark.
And if you didn't know, they actually added some guests to the lineup. Yeah. Oh, let's see. They added Mark Wahlberg, which is a big name to have at your event, which I thought was kind of late in the game. And
he's an East Coaster.
Yeah, he is. He is an East Coaster.
Strong ties to Boston, so he's probably an easy get.
What's his new restaurant?
Wahlburgers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Duh. Gee.
My better half was just at one in Cleveland recently.
Oh, right on. I didn't know they expanded that far.
Or not Cleveland. It was Cleveland. Yeah, they had one in Cleveland.
Okay.
I think that girl right there, is she new add-on, or that's something I missed? That wasn't there before. Maddie Zelger. Dance icon as featured in Knowledge Commander. Well, I don't know who she is. I've never heard of her before in my life.
This is where, again, part of the problem, what people like us are experiencing with Hascon, and again, I'm not getting into the concept of it or anything like that. It's the fact that we're used to very focused conventions, so we go to JoeCon, and here's a Joe packaging artist, and here's a Joe, every guest is related to Joe.
Yep.
If you go to BotCon, the guests are related to BotCon. If you go to one of the Pony Cons, which apparently there are like 95,000 of them, and they're everywhere, and they're huge. Your guests are all pony based, so it Hascon looking at the guests, like you have Mark Wahlberg, who's in a Transformers movie. You have Stan freaking Lee, who is like a god in my opinion, and can go to any damn convention he wants. And then you have the AB family-friendly internet personalities, and Hascon is kind of like a really bizarre stew. Like they're just throwing all this stuff in a pot, and I don't know how well it's going to taste in the end. And I'm not bashing it, because again, I'm giving Hasbro real props for trying something like this, because they do have guests that I would be very interested in seeing. James Gunn is going to be there, and I'm kind of a James Gunn groupie now. But at the same time, it's just a weird mix. Like Chewbacca Mom is going to be there.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that one.
And I get it. Chewbacca Mom's cool, but I'd rather see James up there in his Latal costume. Than Chewbacca Mom.
Maybe we can get her up there in the Chewbacca Latal costume.
Here's something. I know we talked about this on Galactic Gumbo, but I don't know if y'all had heard this, but Rhode Island Comic Con is actually suing, or they've actually opened up a class action lawsuit against Hasbro's Hascon, because earlier this year or last year, I can't remember when the date, Was it last year?
I think it was last year.
Stan Lee made an appearance at their convention, and it was stated, because he's retiring, getting out of the game, that would be his last Rhode Island appearance convention. And here he is again in Rhode Island, appearing again. So apparently they had some legal. Apparently they found a lawyer dumb enough to do it. But I mean, there was, in the contract.
To me, that they don't have a case, and I'll tell you, I remember when the ads for Stan Lee's last Rhode Island comic convention appearance was touted originally, and that's how it was touted. This is not a comic convention. And again, it's in my mind too, it's Stan freaking Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look, the guy's in his 90s. We're lucky that he is still alive.
We're lucky he's still doing
and still doing conventions.
Right. People his age aren't doing this.
And I mean, hell, I hope I'm in half as good a shape as that man at that age. So, you know what? Just quit being stupid about it. Leave Stan alone.
So they're suing Hascon, or they're suing Stan, or they're
suing Hascon.
They're suing Hascon. They opened up a class action lawsuit against Hascon, stating that their convention was the one, because it supposedly said somewhere in there that even in his contract that it would be his last appearance at a convention for signing autographs, whatever the case may be. It was their show in Rhode Island, and here he is less than a year later doing it again. And apparently somewhere in his contract it does state that, but Stan Lee wasn't the one who signed it. It was his representative who signs it. So, I mean, there's no telling what's going to happen on that, to be honest with you. Let's see if I can find the G.I. Joe, Dungeons and Dragons, My Little Pony.
I will say it's going to be crazy. One of the conventions that I've gone to that's really big is JoeCon, which is in Indianapolis. And JoeCon is, the big, giant gaming convention where there's a little bit of video games, and there's board games, and there's RPG games, and there's card games, and there's LARPers, and it is a crazy conglomeration of people in there of different interests.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I see Hascon going to be. It's like you're going to be walking through whatever kind of dealer's room they're going to have, and there's going to be like a dude dressed as a brony. Yep. And then there's going to be, Braun's going to come walking through, and here comes some Magic players and some D&D. It's even broader because
athletes are there, so you're going to have like New England Patriot fans, like the hardcore New England Patriot fans, going to walk up on the bronies and be like, "What's going on? What's this?"
I mean, this could be really cool. This could be this huge, cool melting pot of people that are all there by their shared love of Hasbro. Because
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, James. No.
No. I mean, that was my point that I was sitting on is, yes, you have to look at it, and maybe you have to take apart the Hasbro Lego set and reconfigure it to your own, design that you're not familiar with, if that makes any sense. But for all intents and purposes, this is for people that in theory would collect Hasbro.
Yeah.
I think that's what is throwing us off, everybody for that matter. I've never even heard of anybody saying they collect Hasbro.
Yeah.
But that's not even, I'm not even going to say that that's good or bad, simply what it is.
It is something very new. And look, I'm going to give them props for trying it. My friends who went to Hasbro, like, for example, among Hasbro's vast sea of brands, not just, Joe and Transformers, but, they own Wizards of the Coast. So they own Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. And, at JoeCon this year, which is the big gaming convention in the United States, they didn't have nearly as big a presence because they shifted their focus to Hascon this year.
Oh, wow.
And that, that's kind of a big thing. Is one of the last years I went to JoeCon, and this is at the Indianapolis Convention Center. You walk in, and there's one of those halls that was just tables of sanctioned D&D play. Okay. And, and a giant beholder statue, which I geeked out over. But You know, there's all, and to find out that they have shifted their focus again to Hascon, I'm gonna give Hasbro props. So if you're gonna start something like this, you either go big or you go home, and they are really doubling down on making this a big family event.
Right.
You know, again, that's, you know, you're getting, like, I didn't realize there was a Nerf fandom. And they're having like Nerf trick shot teams there from YouTube. I have been to many corners of YouTube. I have never been to the Nerf corner. I didn't know it was a thing. At the same time, just because it's not in my wheelhouse of interest doesn't mean it's not in someone else's. You know, because I have coworkers who look at my office where I'm sitting now, and I've got my Joe prints and stuff on the wall over here, and they're like, "Oh, are those your little dolls?" They have no clue what the hell G.I. Joe is. They're all 20-something millennials, and you know, and it has no relevance to them. So it's kind of like us with the Nerf stuff or the pony or, you know, what have you. But
I wish in my head, look, one of the things that now that I've digested it a little bit, you know, I still want a focus con, but as far as like digesting this, and we've talked about it so many times on Galactic Gumbo and Cybercast and stuff, and on here too. I'm not. We talked about this a little bit on Gumbo. I'm not really against like the action figure. I'm not. It could not just be G.I. Joe. I'm okay with Transformers or Mask or anything that's action figure related, but it gets too broad. I'm a person that I don't want to go to San Diego Comic-Con. There's too many people. I've had friends that are publishers that have gone and they had bad experiences because you can't really enjoy it. There's too much to do and too many people to walk through to get to the things that you want to do. And there's something to be said for the smaller focused conventions. I think my biggest thing is I don't feel like this was the year for them to do it. As far as like the Joe end of things, there is nothing. Paramount haven't proved to me that they can take Joe and put out any kind of fiction or media that does justice to the brand. They're not there yet. The Transformers, if they had done this in 2008, I think it would have been pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie, for the Transformers brand, because it had just launched. The first movie, I still like the first movie. But since then, it's kind of, every time they put one out, it's kind of gotten lower and worse, and it's kind of garbage. This last one I thought was just total garbage. And the hub didn't work for them. There's a lot of like missteps and stuff. And I look at someone like Disney that puts on a show like a D23 or whatever you want to call, you know, Disney does their thing. Disney gobbled up all these licenses and have made such smart decisions about how do we take Mickey Mouse and just blow it up to the point where we own almost everything. And not just in their parks, but on the media and things. So for them, like having a show for them where you showcase The Last Jedi and all the Pixar stuff and all the different things at Marvel, it just seemed like it was perfect timing for them. For me, I just feel like Hascon, much like the Hub, it's a misstep. I think the concept is not a bad concept. It just didn't feel like the time was quite right. That's just my opinion. You
know, and again, I know we've really kind of tangent off, but I think there's a good point to this. Is I think the Hub was a great idea. I really do. I love the fact that there was going to be a dedicated channel with all of Hasbro's content. I think the execution would have worked had it been 5-10 years ago. But, you know, we live in an era with where I haven't had cable since 2008, you know. The Hub would have worked way the hell better as a web platform or even a YouTube channel, something where I could go on there and and God, no, I do not encourage anyone else to start another separate streaming service. Stop it, Disney. Stop it. Cut this crap off and leave me with my Hulu and everything. But, you know, put your digital content out where people can get to it and enjoy it and just have it all kind of centralized. Because I admit, you know, when Joe moved to Vimeo, and I don't think a lot of people really embraced it. I bought, you know, both Joe and Transformers on Vimeo, and nice. I noticed when it went down that time when all the content disappeared. I remember emailing Daryl and going, "Hey, it's all down," and Daryl's like, "What? We haven't heard about this." But I I just feel like to keep the branding and all this going, you know, something like the hub would have worked better if it had been applied to like more of just a purely digital model. And again, the hub is almost like the Hascon concept, but with programming. You know, it's take all your affiliated brands and bits and bobs and just put them on one place where people can go to get to it. And who knows, maybe someone that goes there for Joe would end up watching episodes of Transformers Prime, or something like that. So maybe Hascon, that's what they're hoping is, you know, I don't think we're the target audience. I really think ultimately the target audience is, you know, mom and dad have got 3 kids, you know, a son, a daughter, and, you know, and another, either one. And, you know, one's interested in My Little Pony and one's interested in Transformers. But you know what? While they're there, they're going to pick up some Nerf stuff, and they're going to go over and maybe look at G.I. Joe if it had a presence. Unfortunately for Hasbro right now, outside of Transformers and Pony, their strongest toy brands are all licensed. You know, it's all Disney owned. It's Star Wars and it's Marvel. And you know, like you said about Disney blending things, one of the greatest things I've ever seen Disney do in terms of blending their licenses was take a Disney character and slap a Star Wars costume on it. Freaking genius, you know, because man, you're getting the Star Wars collectors and the Disney collectors with both your in-house properties. So
Malibu Stacy with a new hat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fans.
Yeah.
Crickets.
You know,
it took a second. You were there way before me. It took me a second.
So I don't know what, you know, I don't know what Hasbro. Unfortunately, a lot of Hasbro's brands, they're just not as well known right now. I mean, you know, when the shared universe thing came up again, I work in an ad agency, and I'm getting to be one of the old men here, and I'm in my 40s for God's sakes. But I was asking some of the younger ones because they're more representative of the up and coming audience for things. I'm like, yeah, I was talking, what do you think of this whole shared universe concept? And they're like, what? And so I said, well, I started listing off brands. They knew Transformers, and it was crickets when I mentioned ROM, which I freaking love ROM the Space Knight, but ROM hasn't been around, you know, forever. Nobody knows Visionaries anymore.
Right.
Hell, I've never seen Visionaries.
You can't find it. You can't. I mean, you really can't stream it anywhere. And you can't find it. So
Mask was not originally a Hasbro property; it was a Kenner property. And Mask has really not aged well because it's kind of a rough cartoon, quite honestly. Hasbro doesn't have these big brands that people know, and that's where I think Hascon it's gonna hurt a little bit. In some ways, you know, there was an article I found that's been making the rounds today on social media. I shared it on JBL's Facebook, and it's from a dad blog where he put, what in the world happened to G.I. Joe? And it was from a father who, not a collector, you know, who took his kids to the toy store to try to find G.I. Joe for him and was like, what? What do you mean there's no damn G.I. Joe? And he went to Hasbro's website, and he's like, what do you mean there's no G.I. Joe? Because he's right. Back in the 80s, you couldn't swing a cat in a toy store without hitting a core Hasbro brand that kids were salivating over.
And I tried.
So, there were no cats left in James's neighborhood.
Well, Gummo was filmed in Xenia, so I'm just kidding. I've never seen that movie.
The fiction and the characters, they're there. When the time is right and someone puts together the right formula to rebrand this stuff and get it out to the masses and not just us, you know, the fandoms. When the time is right, the fiction is there, the characters are there, the concepts are still there. It's just a matter of somebody packaging this thing the right way and doing it justice. I don't, you know, a lot of people will tell you that toys are dead, and that, you know, that may be, you know, as far as like the brick and mortar stores, we might be seeing the end of that in the next 10 years. But as far as characterization and stuff, I'm seeing people see these things fresh on Netflix. People that never watched Daredevil had no idea who Luke Cage was. I'm hearing conversations at work from people that do not care about the fandom, who are watching pretty good fiction on Netflix, these new places where people are streaming stuff. People that weren't into Voltron at all.
Oh.
And they've watched Voltron and they're like, this show is hot. The stories are good, the characters are good. So it is possible. It's possible to do this. It's just going to take people making some good decisions. And honestly, creative team inside Hasbro, not relying on Paramount to force media to the public. Put the creatives back in Hasbro.
And you know the other thing too, and as someone who I work in advertising, so we're always looking at the media that's being used by different age groups and demographics, and you know, I love Joe. I love Joe fans. I'm not one of these people who's like, hey, Joe fans are a bunch of idiots, you know. But the one thing I hate to see, and you know, you always get the same argument that comes up. Well, G.I. Joe just had a weekday afternoon cartoon and a comic book again. It would reach kids. And it won't, because that model worked for us.
Right.
But that model worked for us before the internet, before smartphones, before social media. And I'm not, you know, I think what you're saying is Hasbro has the properties and they have these worlds. And if they need to tweak concepts, you know, to fit the kids of whatever new era, go for it. Because, you know, G.I. Joe was 12-inch military, then it was Adventure Team, and then it was Real American Hero. And, you know, if come up with, you know, I think it was, oh God, I can't speak. Kirk Bazigian said recently on a Facebook post about he sees G.I. Joe coming back and it's going to be reinvented and it's going to be adapted to the kids of that era. Yes. And if that means that it's suddenly something like what they tried to do with Transformers on Go 90, which I just don't think was the right platform. But if it's a mobile only installment show, if it's a Netflix streaming style thing, if G.I. Joe returns back, and one of the last times I saw James, he was playing this, was that online the Battleground game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I knew people that were freaking addicted to that game. You know, if that's the new form of Joe, you know what? As long as kids are out there someday and are still enjoying G.I. Joe, you know, that's what's important to me.
Yeah.
Because G.I. Joe was a huge impact on all of us at some point in our lives. And it's just kind of cool if it comes back a little different, you know?
Yeah.
God, I'm just rambling, but
apparently not me, because Fred thinks I'm not a real fan.
No, you're not. But you know, a good example of this is I have a friend whose kids are, God, one of them now he's in 8th grade. And so a couple of years ago, we were at a bonfire, and my buddy and I, we were Star Wars fans growing up. And so we built this bonfire. And you know what? And I don't know, his kids were there. And I just said to Ed, I said, you know what this bonfire needs? And he looks at me, I said, a dead Anakin Skywalker. Referencing Return of the Jedi. His little boy. No! And I'm like, because for him, Star Wars was the Clone Wars TV series.
Right.
And was Anakin Skywalker. And was a whole different era. And Han, Luke, and Leia, who the hell are they?
Yeah.
So
there was something I forgot to I'm gonna go back to screen share. I wanted to share that video we talked about.
Oh, let's see if this even works.
Oh, it's gonna work.
He's such an optimist tonight.
I know. See?
Oh yeah, baby.
So if y'all just joined in, this is James and one of his cosplay. You have to turn your head sideways because it's this direction. So y'all should be able to hear it no problem.
Are you trying to chase away the fans?
I don't know if it'll play smoothly. I'll put it up on Facebook.
Making it rain.
Oh. Brian loved that. Cleaning it up afterwards.
I think a lot of the fans cleaned it up.
Yeah, the kids all went and got it.
It's only 17 seconds, but
so what were you thinking as you were dancing?
Oh, I was probably honestly, I was probably thinking about where I was going to get my next drink. No, I mean, you're in the zone. I am trying to. I don't go there to win, like, and I don't care if I lose, type thing. But I do think if you're going to do it, you might as well try and win. So I do have a strategy and a pace and sorts, and that's it. Just dance and read the audience and hope they're having fun. And
one thing we haven't asked James about tonight, I don't know if everyone realizes James is the one that does this. But if you go to JoeCon, typically, especially over the past so many years, there were these little card backs that were released and, that tied into parachute figures and things of that nature. And these were done and just given away out of the goodness of someone's heart. Dr. Kavanaugh, sir, would you like to talk about any of
my. Yeah, I mean, they've had a long tradition. I think you would appreciate this. Todd Wensler posted the Jungle Viper Valor versus Venom card that he created on his own. I mean, obviously it was, emulating the Hasbro card, but he posted it on JBL, and he's like, and everybody's like, well, that would be neat if we had one of those, and why can't we have one, and blah, 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 XYZ. And the club back in the day used to make a nice, I mean, and now they do again with the card, with the carded figures, but they would occasionally make a nice print and they'd post it of the figure. So they had a drawing of the Jungle Viper, and I'm like, well, I can take that and I can recreate Todd's art and print it out because I had the facilities. And I, didn't want to say anything. I liked surprises, and I just like to give out stuff and everything. But I did write him at the last minute. I'm like, hey man, as long as it's cool and you don't think I'm stepping on your toes, I'd like to do this. And he's like, oh yeah, of course. Todd doesn't care. Todd's great. And yeah, they just took off like wildfire. I think I printed more than I've ever printed anything else total, and I still didn't have enough. And from there, it just got bigger and bigger. I just wanted to do something fun for everybody. Just like Fred said, the club didn't used to give you a file card or anything for their figures. They would give you a business card, and it had just their information. I think maybe it had a picture of the 3 3/4 inch and the 12-inch figure, but that was it. So I wanted something that the fans could have to really flesh out the club experience, and it just got crazy from there.
Yeah, because I remember you did the Annihilators. You did both colors of the Annihilator from that year.
The Nullifier.
Nullifier, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The Nullifier, and then like, how many of those have you done over the years?
Oh Jesus! I'll send you. I'll send you an image because I made a wallpaper for everybody like a year or two back, and I'll update it. You can put it on your site. But it's been at least 2 since 2005 on up, plus the 1. So that's 20, 24. I mean, there's always a theme. So it's if I do one, I'm doing the other one's parallel. Robot Rebellion Cobra Commander 1 year.
Yeah.
Because they put out that figure, they had that in 2008. We did Bullet Man. We did, I can't even think of the famous Boston baseball player.
Oh, Ted Williams?
Ted Williams. It was in Rhode Island. That's what it was. Kevin Bond and George Greeno used to do that non-con or something like that, and they had the snow serpent with his swimsuit on. it was a snow serpent top with a Sagat legs. And they thought that was hilarious. I'll tell you, I'm glad you brought that up because this year I think it flew under the radar, and I need to finish it, I'll admit. And I can send some to you guys for having me. But I created a create your own Iron Grenadier file card base. So you'd have the 8.5 by 11 instead of the Steel Brigade or the Create a Cobra. It was a Create Iron Grenadier with John Jett, and then on the back there was a link to a web page that I designed where Don Mal wrote the file, the text. But you would go and you would enter the form and hit submit, and then you could print your own custom file card on my blank shell. So that was kind of neat. Just it kind of evolved to that stuff like that. 2016, since I thought it was the last convention, I did a 11x17 catalog image of the 50th figures. I took all the 2014, 2015 stuff, and I tried to emulate. Fred, you know, because you contributed to some of the images. I tried to, emulate the Hasbro catalog, and Fred, you tell me how that turned out.
Oh, I thought it was pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
When I first saw that, it was there was a certain feeling that as a kid, when you got a vehicle and you opened that package, yeah, you got your bag with the parts and all that, but that little paper propaganda catalog that Kirk, developed dropped out. And that became your best buddy for weeks.
Oh,
as you
yeah.
poured over every image. And I got the same vibe again from looking at that one that James had put together, because it was that perfect melding of new imagery and nostalgia. And
absolutely.
It just hits you right. There is a reason. It was when we were talking with Kirk, a couple weeks ago, there's a reason that line did what it did in sales. And they were marketing geniuses and so perfectly calculated on how to manipulate us to spend our hard-earned cash. And so, yeah, James, if you ever wanted to do another one of those, I think people would eat it up, because that really was the new Joe packaging. It's like it's missing in all we know that it's kind of a life support line, and right now, and with the last couple of releases, but it was missing that little something, little bit of those catalog. I think the Toys R Us line, if they'd included a little catalog, I think there would have been a little bit more buzz about it. And realistically, what would have been the cost to Hasbro to put that in there?
I agree with that. I've got a 4.5-year-old right now, and whether it's G.I. Joe or Lego, I've shown him. I've got a few extra pamphlets. Fred, you said a few weeks. I've still looked through those pamphlets. Yes, I can go online. Yeah. Yes, I still look. I've got the pamphlets in a place where I can get to them in 5 seconds, and every once in a while I'll leaf through it. He has looked through them with me. He's also looked through like anything with Lego, when they put out even the magazines they send us, the brochures. He keeps all those things. He has some little comic books that I've given him, and some of the little brochures and stuff. And he keeps them all and counts them every once in a while. You could tell he's a collector's son already. He's got a G.I. Joe shelf, but he loves the brochures almost as much as he likes playing with the figures. And he'll go down and say, I need that one. I want that one. Dada, who's this one? So I think those things are really important.
Look at James's image when James speaks, which is the cover of RAHC Guide. And, it's those... It's those Christmas catalog style photos, that as a kid, you suddenly saw all of these figures, but they weren't just sitting on the carpeting on your bedroom. They were in these diorama environments, and man, they came to life.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And it sparked a whole, how many of us didn't geek out watching those old Hasbro commercials where they were dragging the toys through the environment,
yes.
and the talcum powder snow, and and like, oh God, they just got the whale wet.
Yes, exactly.
All of that. But it was, man, that just made toys exciting.
Yeah, and totally.
James, you ever want to do another catalog? Damn, man, that'll I think fans will gobble that up, including the a-holes who then turn around and try to sell them on eBay.
Well, that's always funny to sit there and look at what they go for and who puts them up and everything. But
has that been? I guess I missed hearing about that before. Is that something that happens with your books? I guess once they sell out, or is it once? Are they still available in your store and you see them on eBay, or what?
I think there's a guy on Amazon that has my book up for $990. But yeah, and hey, I'll sell them to you guys for $450, half off. How about that? It's some company that clearly goes and buys up books, waiting for them to sell out and then make money off it. They hedge their bets. There's probably like ticket scalping. You'll get the occasional guy, at least one of them a year, that'll put them up on eBay for like $25, $50 or whatever, saying it's some sort of convention exclusive with the connecting it more directly to FunPub than I am. And then every great now and then you'll have a fan, and I guess I take it as a compliment because I strive for that accuracy while simultaneously throwing in clear indicators that this is not associated with Hasbro or FunPub. But every year you'll get somebody that says this stuff's coming out and it's going to be great. One year I did a figure suggestion service. Was the theme, and they were, and the icons behind the card back, they were all in bars, and it was based on the Hasbro concept vault, so they were locked behind the vault, and 2 of them were released, so we knew the Data Viper and the Quinn, so they were paroled. But obviously I strive for Hasbro accuracy. Well, they thought that they were going to get Cobra Mortal, Mangler from the comics, Heat Viper. I mean, in hindsight, mind you, my guesses were a lot more spot on. So, but yeah, and then they found out the truth that it was just a fan project, and they were not happy.
Where's my Mangler, Kavanaugh?
Yeah, they thought I was pulling the wool under their eyes, for sure. I do want to make a quick point on this that Fred inadvertently brought up, because he did contribute. Not only Fred, I can't thank you enough for helping me out with that catalog. Fred obviously has decade-plus experience of action figure photography under his belt, and it paid off in full. But I love working with guys like Fred and other artists, to kind of bring them out. And it's not just me doing it. I guess I'm the project head, but if I didn't have Fred's photos, Justin's photos, hey, I'll take it. I'm just, like I said, I'm only rolling around in Letal dollars.
I think the best part about that catalog was, to piggyback, is that you reached out to so many people, and I remember the chat, and people were like, "No, I want to do this figure. No, I want to do this figure." Like, man, it was awesome to see people excited and kind of competing a little bit over, like, man, who got to do X, Y, and Z. Because,
absolutely.
And it wasn't just people grabbing their favorites. It was that, you'd see some of the other photos that came in and you were like, damn, now I want to go pick up, freaking blowtorch and,
right.
Oh, look, another blowtorch. I'm so excited. But, and actually do something with him because, figure photography sparked your imagination. So,
yeah, Fred and everybody else just really knocked it out of the park. You guys really made me, when I looked at these photos, I'm like, damn. It really felt like the 82, 85 catalogs and up, just that era. They're fun.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Question is,
you will, your book that just, the Kickstarter, that's supposed to come out in December. Is that correct? Be shipped out in December?
I'm hoping to ship it out by the end of October.
Oh, end of October. Okay.
The reprint of Volume 1.
Okay, and then that'll also go on your website for sale when that's shipped out?
Yes.
Okay.
As a token of appreciation to everybody that contributed, I just finalized purchasing the RAHC Guidebook's official seal.
Right. I got that email on that. I remember reading that.
Okay. You can see the illustrator drawing that I made, but it'll be a gold foil seal slapped on there for Kickstarter, contributors only.
Cool.
And then just give you something. I mean, you know this game. Fans want variations and rarity and everything else, and certainly a token of appreciation. But then, yes, there will be copies available for those who didn't have a chance to contribute to the Kickstarter.
And then volumes 2, 3, and 4 are already currently available on your website.
If you want another exclusive announcement, for all intents and purposes, yeah. I'm just getting ahead of him, aren't I? No, you're fine. No. Yeah. No, I'm at this point. I'm glad you're saying things that trigger me to remember. I'm going to call Volume 2 sold out because of the Kickstarter. So.
Because of the Kickstarter. So I know, because I looked through the Kickstarter and I did just the reissue, but you did also have a bundle package to where you can get, I think, 1, 2, and 3 maybe, or all 4 Were those copies going to be made extra, or were those copies you already had in stock?
That is what I had in stock.
Had in stock. Okay. So now, since 2 is sold out, will we see another print of 2 now?
I'll kind of gauge the fandom again. I mean,
Okay.
I sold out of Volume 1 last year, like a little after Volume 2 sold out, or was released, and the fandom was lukewarm. I mean, you get a vocal minority from my perspective. Maybe somebody just didn't speak up. But I think the trick with something like this in general for anybody is once you've kind of got 2, 3, 4 volumes out there, then everybody wants all of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sold out on 3, but I'll probably, in theory, I'll be sold out by December. So that's a half a year. I'll be sold out in 3 as opposed to a year.
All right, well then, because I was just thinking I got 1, I'll have to go back and get the rest of them. Now you're telling me you're sold out, so now I want to tell you, hey, you need to start our Kickstarter for number 2 reprint.
Let's go.
You know, Mike, one thing is when I was going through everything tonight to grab copies, I actually have 2 copies of this volume.
Is that number 2?
So, I have an extra copy of the second one. It's sold out.
I guess I better go check eBay real quick.
Mike, if you shoot me your address, I can see that you end up with a copy of Volume 2.
That would be so super of you,
because it is.
I'm glad I got mine this summer. I got it earlier this summer. I'm so glad now that I'm hearing 2 is gone.
See,
I got 3 at JoeCon.
See, and this is something I know Fred has brought up, and I've mentioned to other people, is that, outside of the toys that we're not getting, currently from Hasbro, it's kind of like, it's everyone who contributes to some part of G.I. Joe that keeps me and Fred going on a bi-weekly basis, because I would never have gotten into collecting these books if it wasn't for getting into the podcast or getting more in depth in G.I. Joe than I had been in years. We had Dan on, and I kickstarted. I did the Kickstarter on that one, and then there was this other one. It was the news page articles.
Yeah.
I backed that one. It was funded, and then Kavanaugh's came up, and I was like, okay. Once I read into it, I realized it was kind of like a Transformer book I already had. I was like, well, then that'd be cool, because then I don't have to go to Yo Joe every single time online. I can flip through a book and find it faster. In my opinion, I guess maybe I'm old school because I can go to a book faster than I can online.
I like both.
So,
yeah.
And so, I backed, Kavanaugh's, and then of course, just like Dan's, I want to get all of Dan's, and then the same thing on even the 3D Joe.
Carson's, yeah.
I gotta get all Carson's, and then gotta get all of Dan's. So I mean, outside of toys, there are more things to do other than having your action figures and your comic books. There are people out here who dedicate, like James said, thousands of hours, getting this put out there for nothing in return other than for the fandom itself, which is something that some fandoms can't say they have, because in some fandoms it's always about the almighty dollar in the end.
Yeah. There's a lot of good Joe stuff content-wise right now out. I mean, far as it's like I said, Mike got me back into it through word of mouth and us doing a Transformers podcast together. Mike got me back into it, and I would say this last year, getting back into Joe has reinvigorated my love of collecting, the nostalgia, but also like just collecting in general. I'm really happy with where I'm at right now, and Joe is a big part of. And
see, the best part about him saying that is that when his wife files for divorce, I'll be named in the lawsuit for the cause of it. Because I remember,
I will say to piggyback on that comment, I will say the week I got to Defiant and spent 7 days making that thing like C9. That was a rough week in the household. That's all I'll say.
His wife lost her kitchen for a week. And she's like, nope, you got to get out of here now. He was sitting there with a Q-tip cleaning it.
I went through three packages of the big Q-tip packages that you can buy. I went through 3 of them. There was probably 600. I mean, there's hundreds of Q-tips. But I was using magic erasers, Q-tips. Baby oil is actually a good way to get the stickers off if you don't know, and to re-sticker it. That Defiant is a milestone in my collecting.
Somewhere there's a joke
That's
about
awesome.
a bottle of baby oil. Defiant.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Daddy lives in Defiant.
I think it was a little over last year. What was it? Was it 16? It was before 16 show, and I showed him a Pythona is what it was. I think you bought the Pythona from me first, and then you bought my extra JoeCon box set from. And then after that, he just went ape shit, man. I mean, his wife, God bless that woman, she was sitting outside the dealer room watching all his shit. I mean, his Rolling Thunder. She's sitting there. She takes a selfie with all his stuff behind him, and she's like, "Just what was it?" I wish I could remember the words she said. It was like, "Go to JoeCon." I sit outside, basically in the hallway while my husband is there. I mean, he runs around like a 12-year-old child. He's out volunteering. He's waiting in line. He's like, "Hey, Mike, where do I need to go first? Where do I need to go first?" And I'm like, I pulled to the door. I'm like, "You see that guy's booth right there?" Which was who was it? Chris. Chris Nails. Chris is. That's where you need to go first. Go there first, hands down. And that's where he went. And that's where all his money went. And his wife went back outside and sat down and watched all his shit.
Do you guys remember I don't know when in 80s, but it was sometime in the mid 80s, Toys R Us did the contest where like the kid could go into a Toys R Us and get like anything. That is what it's like to be me when I went to JoeCon. My wife had 3 giant vintage boxes and like probably 4 bags of stuff, and she had created a little area and she had a little chair.
You drove that year, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Every time I don't drive
to Chattanooga, 8 hours. No problem.
JoeCon is a driving convention versus a flying convention. It
is because you can't buy nothing and expect to take it back on as a carry-on. I wanted, like Chris Neal, Sunday morning, he was selling 50% off on all his modern stuff. Box sets, con sets, figures, subscription service figures. I mean, he had a great damn deal. And I told myself, I'm like, it happened in 15 and happened this year that someone was running a fire sale and I couldn't buy barely anything because I had no way of taking it home, and the stuff I did ship went to people who did my golden ticket piggyback, and they paid the astronomical prices of that hotel shipping service, which was insane. I mean, I shipped from Florida. I think he was in San Francisco. It was like $100-something to ship from there to there.
Jesus.
But he had no problem paying it whatsoever. I told him, I said, "There's no way I can get it. I can take it home."
You want to make some money at JoeCon? You get a booth. You get a bunch of Postal Service priority mail boxes.
There you go.
And you just be willing to make a run to the post office every damn night.
It was really surprising how that was not a booth there this past year. I guess because it was Disney property. And the hotel had all rights, so you had to use the service that the hotel had, and they charged you X amount just for using their service and X amount for them accepting a package from you.
Welcome to Disney.
Yeah.
It was the happiest, cost-effective place on earth.
Exactly. So it was fun still. I mean, granted, if I had another $500, I probably would have gone away with a crap load more than I did. I mean, I took home some pieces I was needing, and it's like once you start looking, you're like, you just pick this and this and this. And you're like, I can't get all of this. My wife will kill me if I bring all this shit home. So that's the whole ordeal there. But it was good. We had a good time there.
Well, guys, we are right at 2 hours tonight.
Well, I think we're a little under 2 hours since we were starting, about 10 minutes late because of the hiccup.
Oh, that's right, because of
Ah, oh Lord, no.
Wow.
But
You
yeah,
got that one in the chamber.
he might well just keep a stack of them because every time I turn around, he's always got something new to get me on. But James, thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us. Again, tell people your website, the books you have available now, and possibility of what you got coming along the pipeline, real quick.
Yeah, well, for starters, I can't thank the three of you enough for having me. It's been awesome. Yeah, everything, chit chat and BS, and I can't get enough of it. But to that end, yes, I'm at www.rahcguide.com. I'm at rahc.guide@gmail.com if you want to contact me or get on my email list. I still do it ye old-fashioned way in some regard. And then at facebook.com/RAHC guide. And any form of RAHC guide on Twitter, Instagram, all the cool kids sites.
And then again, your book will be up for sale probably the end of October for people who did not jump on the Kickstarter.
Yes. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm padding my release date a little bit, so people aren't getting a curveball. It could come earlier. But let's just say end of October, as stated on the Kickstarter.
Okay, and then volumes 3, and there is a 4th one, right? I thought you said there was a 4th one.
It's always been a little bit of a who's on first, because there's, RAHC Guide is my first book, so I have done indeed 4 books. However, once you get into the rank and file, it's 1 through 3. Okay. So RAHC almost or exists as a 0. I don't know.
Okay, I got you.
Oh, not the Forgotten Era.
Well, it's the target to go to. Yeah, the Forgotten Era. I know. It's a shame.
All right, exactly. All right, well, we do appreciate you coming on, and if y'all want to get his book, definitely go check out his website and get those copies, and then take them with you to Chattanooga next year and get them to autograph them for you. But Rick, tell people they can find you at.
Yep, I'm easy. You can find me just on Twitter as Shattered Glass Jazz.
Because he's too old to do anything else.
I always think Shattered Glass Jazz sounds like a hell of a musical act. I love it. It's like, man, Shattered Glass Jazz.
Ray, where they can find you at?
JoeBattlelines.com, on Facebook at Joe Battlelines, Instagram the same way when I do update it, and on Twitter as well. So, and Google Plus. Woo!
Those 2 people over there.
Google employees
Google
have
Plus as well.
And y'all can find me on Twitter as BotconFan1978, and then you can catch us in 2 weeks on September the 9th for our next episode. We are still working out a lead on any kind of guest right now, or just we'll get together and BS it for an hour and a half or so. But
our guest is a surprise, even to us.
Even us, yes. We don't even know who it's going to be yet, but it's going to be a surprise. But thanks for tuning in. You can check it on video form, and then you can catch me and Rick next weekend on Cybercast over on G1 Hextron channel. So appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.